Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Voice Global. This is Pete Erickson, and this is part of our Fireside Chat series. I'm really excited for our next guest, Ha-Hoa Hamano. She is with NPR. She leads the product team that has launched the voice skills for NPR. And I have to say, it was one of the very first skills that I ever used when I got my Alexa many years ago. Ha-Hoa, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
So tell us a little bit about your role at NPR.
I am a senior product manager for emerging platforms. And so before the Alexa launch, I was working on connected cars mostly, as well as connected TVs, some wearables. And so Alexa and the voice platforms were a part of my portfolio, and obviously later became a bigger part. And so it really fits into our goals and missions of meeting our audience where they are. And then certainly TVs were in folks' living rooms and where they were getting some news, but also looking for audio news as well. Same with the cars. The car dashboard was changing a lot in that time, and so when the voice devices and platforms came out, it was just a really super clear opportunity for us to take our audio news and content and bring it in a whole new way to our audiences on the platform.
Well, so I would venture to guess there are very few people that have been as close to the front lines of the voice revolution, if you will, than you and the team at NPR. And I'm sure you've already seen, I guess maybe we could say it's been about 5 years now,
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Roughly. You've probably seen a pretty amazing maybe transformation happen in that time. Tell us a little bit about that journey if you can. So like when you started out 5 years ago, to kind of like maybe some highlights about where things have come to today.
Absolutely. I think that was the case, right? 5 years ago, it was such a natural fit. And it was, let's take this radio thing and put it in this smaller radio looking thing, right? And
Right.
That was great. And then it was exciting for folks with those devices to hear the NPR that they know and love also available there. And I think that was, again, just such a natural fit. I think for us at NPR, as you said, Pete, like it's still being that close to it meant we wanted to do even more. And so I think, as the platform developed and more conversational and natural, and certainly understanding us a little better, understanding our audiences a little better when they're asking for certain things, I think we just wanted more and more to really meet those needs. And so flash briefings were, one of the ways that it started with 5 minutes of news. Obviously, NPR does way more than 5 minutes of news a day, audio
every
news.
Day.
Every day. And that's every day, 24 hours a day. And so I think those are some of the really encouraging advancements that we've been able to make. And now, when you say play the news from NPR, you do get a stream of news. You can skip, you can tie it into, some of our other platforms that I work on, our mobile and our web. And so I think those are some of the ways that we've seen it be not just kind of a gimmick and another radio on the side, but really diving into the unique features again in, once the screens came out, what does it look like for radio and audio to have kind of a second screen experience? When we leaned into that, the wait quiz, which we love, and we've gotten a lot of really great engagement on. That's a whole different way that we do that experience on those devices. And so again, just keep staying close to it and really pushing us and pushing the platforms to meet our audiences, because they love the platform, they love our content, and like we want to
right. Yeah. Well, I definitely as a listener subscriber, I can relate, and I think that one thing I have noticed is access to that content. So if it's, a specific, like you mentioned, the wait quiz, love that show. Now I don't have to wait for it to come on. I can actually just tap into it whenever I want, or listening to a fresh air interview, which is, so great. Tell us a little bit more about who NPR is.
Sure. We are a national nonprofit membership organization. And so we both produce content as well as distribute content in partnership with our member stations. And so we have over 260 member stations across the US who both carry our national programming as well as produce their own. And so it is, and is mission driven in that we are here to create a more informed public that is in service of active and civic participation. And so all of that is a unique place to be as a media organization, as a nonprofit media organization, as a membership media organization. And so we are we occupy a unique space in the media landscape in the US.
Sure. I think one thing I was impressed with when I went to the new headquarters in Washington, D.C. is just the size,
That's right.
the number of people, of course, just the production environment is really, really impressive. And it becomes, after listening all these years to then go there and kind of like, oh, wow, this is where it all happens. Ha-Hoa, where do you see things going with regards to our in-home assistance? Is there anything you can share with regards to, what you have planned for the rest of 2020 or just kind of what's your take on where things are going to go, as we look into 2021?
Yeah, I think some of the listener feedback that we've gotten that was so touching was that, hearing the NPR voices was that sense of calm and normalcy in these times, right? That they could still turn it on and it was still a familiar voice. And that was one of and they were getting, obviously, the information that they needed about to make sense of the world. And I think that was really encouraging. I think, we were certainly at a point before the pandemic of really leaning in. Let's experiment and try a bunch of new things because it's growing. But I think, it's certainly, we want to balance that hunger for innovation and wanting to really be there when eventually we come out of this. But I think there's still a part of like, as we like to say, not all disruption is good. We don't always want to move fast and break things in this moment. Like if folks are really feeling that this is the thing that's grounding them and comforting them, then let's let that breathe a little bit, and then we can still kind of ideate and think and move forward and take advantage of opportunities as we can without truly disrupting folks whose lives who are already disrupted. And so I think that's the other part of it. That's the balance we're trying to get.
I think that's really interesting. I think that what you're saying is consistency right now is important, and to kind of have that certainty. I think that there's been so much uncertainty brought into our lives, and even as I've got young kids as well, and they're school-aged, elementary school.
Yep.
And there's a lot of uncertainty in our life with regards to like what's going to happen in the fall. There's still not, it's still uncertain, right? So I think that that's a really interesting take that, maybe it's not the time for disruption across everything. Maybe it's time for consistency and time to be that steady voice. I think that's really cool. Let me ask you this: with regards to listenership and the proliferation of devices, however, it's still people are still buying voice assistants for the home, whether it's an Alexa or a Google Assistant. Can you follow that trend line and sort of see the growth of listenership?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's new device. We certainly see some of in the past, the retail holidays, right? Like it was Mother's Day and this, and it's just like, hey, look, it's through during that time. And so we can certainly see those. I think we want to, what we're trying to get more sophisticated is making sure we capture those moments in time and are retaining we want to retain those audiences and know that they came in through a gift, right? Which is different because those folks need to be reminded and prodded and told about the features, right? Versus someone who buys it and it's like, I need this, I already know it, it's my second device, right? And so there's a lot of behaviors that we see around who has this device and what's it for. As a lot of the screen devices folks use as their second one, and so when it's like, oh, folks are more engaged on screen devices, like, well, yes, and it's their second device, and so they know how to use it and they know that it's like another thing. And so those are some of the things things that we see when we have, these growths in folks. Again, the screen device, we have a different experience for folks who have screens, an additional experience there. And so we know when that's growing, it's just different.
I think that's interesting that, NPR is an audio company, and now you've got multimodal devices that are in homes and elsewhere. But Ha-Hoa, what would you say to somebody watching this interview that might be new to this space and just trying to understand it? Maybe just coming into voice. Is there any advice that you would have for them?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of places for folks who are interested in voice. Certainly, from the technology side, that's something that has a lot of training opportunities, and certainly videos and a lot of materials out there to get up to speed on that. I think for conversation design, you and I know a lot of wonderful conversation design folks who love to talk and share, and they're out talking about their experience and how folks can get involved, as well as user design and product design. And so I think there's space for everyone who wants to get involved. It's such a engaging and new space that we're like, all newcomers are welcome, right? Like, we're all new and we're all learning about this. And then certainly the range of topics, I think, we've seen, things like news. That's not the only place for you to go in music. Kids, like we talked about, young kids certainly is a ripe open space there. Healthcare, finance, you name it. Any of those topics, folks and brands in that space are looking to really dive in. And if you do it now, you're just in the mix with all of us learning about it. And so it's and content like yours, Peter, is so welcoming for that. And so I think, like, definitely check out everything that's happening on Voice Global and the conference. But there's a lot, and dive in and ask to meet those people. I think you and I know that our community is so welcoming and open to just like reach out to those folks. They're happy to answer those questions.
Wow. Appreciate that. Appreciate your kind words, and appreciate your willingness to come and sit down with me and talk about your experiences there at NPR. Let's hope that there is a resolution to this pandemic soon, so we can all get back together at conferences.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, stay safe and stay healthy. Ha-Hoa, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers.